I almost died from a serious illness, and while I was hospitalized, my husband cheated with multiple married coworkers, used dating apps behind my back, canceled my health insurance, and now claims he wasn't happy. My soon-to-be ex-husband, 42 male, who I'll call Cal, and I, 40 female, have been married for 8 years and together for 9. We technically knew of each other growing up because we went to the same schools, but we were never close, never in the same social circles, and never even really crossed paths in a meaningful way back then. Before Cal, I had been married once before. That marriage lasted 14 years, and we were together for 17 in total. It was filled with years of domestic abuse and repeated infidelity on his part. Eventually, I made the decision to leave, not just for myself, but to protect my son and get him out of that environment. I walked away with nothing but determination, filed for divorce, and rebuilt my life from the ground up. After that, I dated a little, but nothing serious ever came of it. Then, a couple of years later, Cal messaged me on Facebook out of the blue, asking for my number. We started talking, then dating, and within a month we were inseparable. Things moved fast, very fast. We were engaged within 8 months and married just over a year after we started dating. Cal had never been married before. His longest previous relationship had only lasted about a year, and he didn't have children. I knew going into the relationship that he had served as a Marine with 3 tours and carried PTSD from his service. I took that seriously and respected it. For the most part, he seemed like everything I could ask for: kind, attentive, steady, and safe, especially compared to the chaos I had escaped before. There was only one major red flag I noticed early on: his relationship with his mother. Cal had never lived on his own. Ever. Every bill he had was in his mother's name. She handled everything. He worked full-time in a factory, but beyond that, she enabled him completely. When I moved in a few months after we started dating, I took over the rent payments, and his mother conveniently moved out. Suddenly, we were living alone, and I quickly realized how little adult responsibility he had ever truly carried. I pushed him, firmly, to get his driver's license back, manage his own obligations, and start functioning like an adult partner. To his credit, he did step up in some ways. Over time, the intense mother-son attachment appeared to loosen, and I genuinely believe the dynamic had become healthier. Looking back now, I think his mother wanted me to take over her role entirely. She encouraged the marriage heavily, almost eagerly, as if she was relieved to hand him off to someone else. From the beginning, Cal knew about my health issues. I live with 2 serious autoimmune diseases, ulcerative colitis and a blood clotting disorder that causes internal bleeding, and I take multiple medications daily. I've been considered permanently disabled and have been on SSI since 2010. Despite that, I've always been responsible, financially stable within my means, and fully present as a parent. My son was 14 when Cal and I started dating, and is now 21. Cal assured me repeatedly that my health was not a problem, that he understood what he was signing up for, and that he wanted to be my partner through it all. At the time, I believed him. For years, I carried the emotional weight of the relationship. I managed the household, handled finances, kept everything running, and tried to be endlessly patient with his PTSD, his emotional distance, and his avoidance of conflict. I told myself this was what partnership looked like: compromise, understanding, endurance. What I didn't realize was that while I was pouring myself into building stability and safety, Cal was quietly unraveling behind my back. Over time, intimacy dwindled. Communication became surface level. He withdrew emotionally, spending more time isolated, glued to his phone, or disappearing into his own world. Anytime I tried to address concerns, I was met with shutdowns, defensiveness, or silence. I started questioning myself, wondering if my illness made me too much, if I was asking for too much, if this was just how long marriages worked. It wasn't. What I eventually uncovered shattered everything I thought I knew about my marriage and about Cal himself. Affairs. Lies. Secret online lives. Exploration of identities and desires he never once shared with me, while continuing to present himself as a committed husband. I realized that I wasn't just being neglected, I was being deceived. And when I finally confronted the truth, instead of accountability or compassion, I was met with self-preservation. He moved on quickly, rewrote the narrative, and abandoned me emotionally and practically, even going so far as to cancel my health insurance while we were still legally married, knowing full well how dangerous that was for me. From the first year of our marriage through the 7th, everything between us felt genuinely amazing. I don't say that lightly. We rarely argued, we laughed constantly, and I truly believed we were deeply in love. After everything I had survived in my first marriage, this felt like proof that I had finally chosen right. I felt safe, chosen, and secure. Cal treated me with kindness and consistency, and I believed we were a team. That illusion started to crack during my 7th year of marriage, when my health took a terrifying turn. I began bleeding internally and didn't know why. What started as exhaustion quickly escalated into a medical emergency. I was hospitalized for weeks, put on biologic medications, and spent months receiving blood transfusions and weekly vitamin infusions at my hematologist clinic. It was one of the scariest periods of my life. I didn't know if my body was going to stabilize, if the treatments would work, or if I would ever feel like myself again. Eventually, thankfully, I did. Slowly but surely, my health improved. I regained strength, returned to my routines, and started feeling like me again. But something had already shifted in my marriage. While I was in the hospital, I noticed a sudden and unmistakable change in Cal. He became distant, distracted, and emotionally unavailable. He was constantly on his phone, withdrawing into it in a way he never had before. At the time, I tried to rationalize it. I told myself that my illness had scared him, that he was coping poorly, that he was just stressed or distracting himself with sports and social media. I didn't want to assume the worst, especially after everything we had built together. For 8 months, that unease lingered. Then I noticed marks on his neck. At first, I didn't want to believe what I was seeing. I tried to convince myself they were nothing, maybe irritation, maybe coincidence. But deep down I knew. They weren't innocent. They were hickeys. So I did the one thing I never wanted to do. I went through his phone. What I found confirmed my worst fears. Cal was cheating on me with a married coworker. Not emotionally, physically. Intimately. While I was recovering from a life-threatening medical crisis. I confronted him immediately. He didn't deny it. The woman he was seeing ended up getting fired shortly after, not because of the affair, but due to attendance issues. She was employed through a temp agency and never officially hired by the company. Their relationship ended more out of circumstance than remorse. Despite everything, I chose to forgive him. For 3 months after that discovery, things seemed better. Almost eerily so. He was attentive again. Present. Loving. I wanted to believe we had survived the worst and come out stronger. I told myself people make mistakes, that forgiveness was powerful, that marriages require work. Then the switch flipped again. Once more, he became glued to his phone. Withdrawn. Distant. Secretive. That familiar pit formed in my stomach, the one I had ignored before, and this time, I didn't push it away. What I uncovered next shattered whatever hope I had left. He was seeing another married coworker, a 28-year-old woman, and this time, it didn't end quietly. I packed his things, kicked him out, and made it crystal clear that I wanted a divorce. He is now with that woman. But that still wasn't the full truth. Going through his phone more thoroughly was like peeling back layers of a life I never knew existed. The 2 married women were only the surface. I discovered that he had been searching for and messaging transgender women on Facebook. He had downloaded Grindr and was actively talking to different trans women, attempting to meet up and hook up locally. From the conversations I saw, none of those attempts were successful, but the intent was unmistakable. I also found toys I had never seen before, ordered from Amazon. One of the boxes was literally labeled for self-trans play. I want to be absolutely clear about something. I have no problem whatsoever with anyone exploring their identity, sexuality, or gender expression. People deserve to live authentically. That is not the issue here. The issue is that this was never disclosed to me, never discussed, never hinted at. It was not part of our marriage, our intimacy, or our shared understanding of who we were as a couple. This was not what I consented to, not what I agreed to, and not what I signed up for when I married him. Instead of honesty, I was given deception. Instead of communication, I was given betrayal. Instead of partnership, I was left alone, sick, vulnerable, and unknowingly sharing my life with someone living multiple secret realities. After everything finally came to light, Cal's explanation was that he had always been curious, even when he was young, but had never told anyone. That was his justification for the dating apps, the secret messages, the toys hidden away, and the entire double life he had been living behind my back. He said it as if it were a confession meant to absolve him, not a revelation that shattered what little trust one had left. I listened to him explain this while realizing how irrelevant it was in the face of what he had actually done. Curiosity does not excuse deception. Internal conflict does not justify betrayal. And self-discovery does not give someone permission to dismantle another person's life, health, and sense of safety in the process. If he had questions about himself, he had years to be honest with me. Instead, he chose secrecy, lies, and repeated infidelity. We are currently in the middle of our divorce, just waiting for it to be finalized. He is now living with the same woman he cheated on me with, the second married coworker, while continuing to publicly portray himself as someone who simply fell out of love or wasn't happy anymore. What makes this especially cruel is that while doing all of this, he canceled my health insurance. That insurance is not optional for me. It is not a convenience. It is how I receive the medications that keep me alive and stable. I rely on it to manage 2 autoimmune diseases and a blood clotting disorder that nearly killed me. He canceled it knowing I had just come out of a medical crisis, knowing I am permanently disabled, and knowing I have a pending case for new health insurance due to my disability and the change in my marital status. He knew exactly how dangerous that decision was. In our state, canceling a spouse's health insurance during an active divorce is illegal and considered malicious intent and bad faith. I confirmed this with an attorney, unfortunately, one I cannot afford to hire, which is why I filed the divorce paperwork myself at the courthouse. Even knowing this, he did it anyway. Whether it was out of spite, indifference, or self-interest no longer matters. The result is the same. He knowingly put my health at risk. While I have been scrambling to stay medically stable and keep myself from getting sick again, he has been telling family members and mutual acquaintances that the marriage ended because he wasn't happy anymore after I got sick, that his PTSD became overwhelming, and that it just happened. No mention of the affairs. No mention of the lies. No mention of the months of secret conversations, hidden dating profiles, or sexual pursuits outside our marriage. Certainly no mention of the fact that at least one of these women worked under him. Because yes, I should make this very clear, he was her boss. He was disciplined at work and placed on probation for having an inappropriate relationship with a subordinate coworker. That detail alone dismantles the clean, innocent narrative he's been feeding people. This wasn't a case of 2 people accidentally falling in love. It was unethical, deceptive, and part of a repeated pattern of behavior that escalated over time. What makes all of this even more surreal is that his entire family still loves me. We are extremely close and remain in full contact. They check on me. They support me. They believe in me. They have all refused to allow him and this woman to move into their homes because they firmly believe that both of them are using drugs. His family knows how he behaved in the past when he was using, and they recognize the same signs now. Despite this, his mother and several relatives genuinely believe the story he's telling, that he simply met someone and fell in love before the divorce was finalized, that the marriage had already emotionally ended, and that there was no betrayal involved. That narrative exists because I have allowed it to exist. For 10 months, I have been civil. I have been quiet. I have protected his privacy, even when it hurt me to do so. I did not retaliate. I did not defend myself publicly. I did not correct people when they made assumptions. I absorbed the discomfort, the judgment, and the quiet rewriting of history because I believed that taking the high road meant staying silent. But silence has a cost, and I am the one paying it. The truth is not unclear. I have all the receipts, screenshots, messages, dating app profiles, timelines, proof of multiple affairs, proof of deception, proof of overlapping lies. There is no room for denial or misinterpretation. Even his adult niece, whom I am very close with, has seen everything. She knows the full scope of it and has repeatedly told me that I should absolutely tell the family the real truth. Not out of revenge. Not to embarrass him. Not to weaponize his sexuality or personal struggles. But because the story being told right now is false, and it places the blame for the end of the marriage on me. I am deeply conflicted because I do not believe in outing someone or exposing intimate details simply to hurt them. I have no desire to humiliate him or destroy his reputation. But at the same time, those details do not exist in isolation. They are part of a broader pattern of dishonesty, infidelity, manipulation, and reckless behavior that directly impacted my physical health, emotional safety, and future stability. This isn't about punishment. It's about truth. It's about reclaiming my reality. I am exhausted from being portrayed as the woman who got sick and pushed him away. I am tired of being the quiet one while he reshapes the narrative to protect himself. I stayed faithful. I stayed honest. I stayed committed, even when it was terrifying and hard. Is it wrong to finally tell the people who love me, the people who are unknowingly believing a lie, what actually happened?